Hello, and welcome to the Gamer's Closet. I'm your host, Douglas Weed, and today we're going to be kicking off our first episode of 4 on what I entitled Monopoly Month, starting with, you guessed it, Monopoly. Monopoly is a roll, spin, and movement game. It is a bidding auction game. It is a set collection game. It is a player elimination game. It has been known as a game that causes families to get into fights with each other. The game is originally from 1933. The edition I have here is from 1985, which is the Deluxe Collector's Edition. The game seats anywhere from 6 to 12 players, depending on what edition you have. The game goes anywhere from about an hour to 2 hours of gameplay and ranges for ages 8 and up. But let's dig into it a little further, shall we?
How did I make it big? I know how. To play the game, I buy real estate, hotels, fancy cars, even railroads. And I take chances. To make it big, you've got to play the game. I'm Monopoly Game.
During the Great Depression, Charles B. Darrow, an unemployed salesman, was looking for affordable entertainment for his family and friends. Remembering his past vacations to the seaside resort Atlantic City in New Jersey, he devised a game using the city's street names and railroad lines. It caught on rapidly among his friends and neighbors. Darrow knew he had a hit on his hands and started making game sets and selling them to local department stores. By 1934, the Monopoly board game had taken off like a freight train. Darrow couldn't keep up with the idea, so he took it to Parker Brothers. In 1935, the company bought the rights to the game, and Darrow eventually retired as a millionaire. The Monopoly game quickly became America's best-selling board game and is now published in 26 languages and 80 countries. An estimated 500 million people have enjoyed the Monopoly game from Parker Brothers. In fact, the latest facts and figures show that over 200 million games have been sold worldwide. The game has been released in Russian, Italian, Israeli, Chinese, and even Arabic language. Most people don't realize that Mr. Monopoly actually has a real name. In 1999, it was officially changed to Mr. Monopoly, but before that, he was known as Rich Uncle Pennybags, or as his given name, as Milburn Pennybags. The character for the in-jail prison is known as Jake the Jailbird, and the police officer in the go-to-jail card and on the board go-to-jail is known as Officer Mallory. Depending on which edition you have of this game, the piece count does vary. The game does come with two 6-sided dice. Current editions include a custom 6-sided speed dice that allows players to move further and occasionally offers more movement options. Player tokens include anywhere from 6 to 12, depending on which version you have of this game. 32 houses, 12 hotels, 16 chance cards, 16 community chest cards, 28 title deed cards, a stack of play money, and instructions. If you have the deluxe version of the game, it also includes a title deed card holder, a banker's tray, and comes with 12 player tokens. To set up this game, place the board on a table and put the chance and community chest cards face down on their allotted spaces. Each player then chooses one token that will represent him or her while traveling around the board. Select as a banker a player who will also make good as an auctioneer. A banker who plays in the game must keep his or her personal finances separate from those of the bank. The banker does have a few duties: looking after all money in the bank, holding all title deeds, houses, and hotels prior to purchase and use by players, paying salaries and bonuses, selling properties to players and delivering the property title deed cards, auctioning properties, selling houses and hotels, lending money when required on mortgages, receiving from players the price of all properties bought from it, taxes, fines, money penalties, loans, and interest. The banker gives each player $1,500 as follows: 2 $500 bills, 2 $100 bills, 2 $50 bills, 6 $20 bills, 5 $10 bills, 5 $5 bills, and 5 $1 bills. All remaining money goes into the bank. The bank never goes broke. If the bank runs out of money, the banker issues IOUs for whatever amounts are required by writing the amount on a piece of paper. IOUs can be exchanged for cash whenever cash is available. Otherwise, they are simply counted in the assets of the player holding them. Starting with the banker, each player in turn throws the dice. The player with the highest total is the first to play. To begin, place your token on the go space. Throw the dice and move your token in the direction of the arrow and the number of spaces indicated by the dice. After you have completed your move, your turn passes to the left. Each token remains on the space occupied and proceeds from that point on the next turn. Two or more tokens may rest on the same space at the same time. Once your token has landed on a space, you may be entitled to one of the following, depending upon the condition of that space. You can buy a property, pay rent if another player owns the property, pay taxes, draw a chance or community chest card, go to jail, remain on free parking, or collect $200. If you throw doubles, move your token as usual. You are subject to any privileges or penalties on the space on which you land. Throw the dice again and move your token as before. If you throw doubles 3 times in succession, you must move your token immediately to the in jail space and your turn ends. The banker pays you a $200 salary every time your token either lands on or passes go, whether you reach or pass there by throwing the dice or drawing card unless otherwise indicated by the card. The $200 is paid only once each time around the board. However, if you pass go on a throw of the dice and land 2 spaces beyond it on community chess or 7 spaces beyond it on chance, and you draw the advance to go card, you collect $200 twice for the 2 times you pass go. When you land on free parking, you receive no benefit nor incur any penalty and move ahead in the usual manner on your next turn. This is just a free resting space. When you land on an unowned property, whether by throwing of the dice or a move forced by drawing a chance or community chest card, you may buy that property from the bank at the printed price. If you choose to buy it, you pay the bank for the property and receive the title deed as proof of ownership. Place that card face up in front of you. If you do not wish to buy the property, the banker sells it at auction to the highest bidder. The buyer pays in cash and receives a title deed from the bank as proof of ownership. All players, including the one who declined the option of buying at the original price, may bid. Bidding may start at any price. When you land on a property owned by another player, either by a throw of the dice or by a move forced by a chance or community chest card, the owner collects rent from you in accordance with the listed price on the property's title deed card. If the property contains 1 or more houses, the rent is larger than it would be for an unimproved property. If the property is mortgaged, the player who owns the property does not collect rent. You indicate a mortgaged property by turning the property's title deed face down. If the owner fails to ask for rent before the next throw of the dice, no rent is collected. It is an advantage to hold all the title deeds for a color group, for example, Boardwalk and Park Place or Connecticut, Vermont, and Oriental Avenues, because the owner may then charge double rent for unimproved properties in that color group. This rule applies to unmortgaged properties, even if another property in that color group is mortgaged. It is even more advantageous to own houses and hotels on properties because rents are much higher than for unimproved properties. If you land on the income tax space, you have 2 options. You may estimate your tax at $200 and pay the bank, or you may pay 10% of your total worth to the bank. Your total worth is all of your cash on hand, printed pieces of mortgaged and unmortgaged property, and cost price of all buildings you own. You must decide which option you will take before you add up your total worth. When you land on either a chance or community chess space, take the top card of the relevant deck. You must follow the instructions printed on the card and then return the card face down to the bottom of the deck. You may keep the get out of jail free card until you need it. After using it, return it to the bottom of the deck. If you don't wish to use it, you may sell it to another player at any time at a mutually agreed price. Whenever players pay fines from chance or community chess cards, they must pay the money into the bank. You go to jail if your token lands on the space marked go to jail, you draw a card marked go to jail, or you throw doubles 3 times in succession. When you are sent to jail, your turn immediately ends there. You do not collect a $200 salary on that turn because you do not pass go, but instead move directly to jail. If you are not sent to jail, but in the ordinary course of play reach that space, you are considered just visiting and incur no penalty. You move ahead in the usual manner on your next turn. You get out of jail by throwing doubles on any of the next 3 turns after landing in jail. If you succeed in doing this, you immediately move forward the number of spaces shown on your doubles throw. Even though you threw doubles, you do not take another turn. Another option is to use your get out of jail free card if you have one, purchasing a get out of jail free card from another player and using it, or paying a fine of $50 before throwing the dice on either of your next 2 turns. If you do not throw doubles on your 3rd turn, you must pay the $50 fine. You then get out of jail and immediately move forward from jail the number of spaces shown on your throw. You may buy and build houses, buy and sell property, and collect rent even though you are in jail. You must own a complete color group before you are allowed to buy houses from the bank. If you buy one house, you may put it on any one of the properties in that color group. The next house you buy must be put on one of the unoccupied properties of this or any other complete color group you own. The price to pay the bank for each house is shown on each property's title deed. Players continue to collect double the rent on unimproved properties of their complete color groups from any opponent landing on them. You may at any time during your turn buy and build as many houses as your judgment and financial standing will allow in accordance with the rules. You must, however, build evenly. You cannot build more than one house on any property of a color group until you have built one house on every property of that color group. You may then begin to build a second row of houses and so on up to the limit of 4 houses to one property. You may not, for instance, build 3 houses on one property if you have only one house on another property of that color group. Similarly, properties must be maintained evenly. If houses have to be sold, they must be removed equally from all properties of a color group. Houses may not be built if any property of the same color group is mortgaged. If the bank has no more houses to sell, players wishing to build must wait for another player to return or sell houses to the bank before they can build. If there are a limited number of houses available and 2 or more players wish to buy more than the bank has, the bank must auction the houses to the highest bidder. You must have 4 houses on each property of a complete color group before you can buy a hotel. You may then buy a hotel from the bank to be built on any property of that color group. To build a hotel, you must ask the bank to exchange the 4 houses on the chosen property for a hotel, as well as make the payment printed on the title deed. It can be very advantageous to build hotels because very large rents are charged from them. Only one hotel may be built on any one property. If you're forced to mortgage a property, you may arrange mortgages on unimproved properties through the bank in order to raise more money. Before you can mortgage a property, you must sell all the buildings on the property back to the bank at half price. The mortgage value of each property is printed on the back of each title deed. The interest rate on mortgages is 10%. You must repay this along with the full amount borrowed when the mortgage is lifted. If you buy a mortgage property, you may choose to lift the mortgage at once by paying the principal plus 10% interest. If you do not lift the mortgage immediately, you must still pay the interest when buying the property, and if you choose to lift the mortgage later on, you must then pay the bank additional 10% interest as well as the amount of the mortgage. If you need to sell a property, you can sell undeveloped properties, railroads, and utilities. You can sell them to any player as a private transaction for a sum agreeable to its owner. No property, however, may be sold to another player if any buildings stand on the property of that color group. If any owner wishes to sell a property from a color group, all buildings on the property must be sold back to the bank. Hotels and houses may be sold back to the bank at any time for 1/2 the price paid for them. All houses on one color group must be sold one by one evenly in reverse of the manner in which they were built. All hotels on one color group may be sold at once, or they may be sold one house at a time, evenly in reverse of the manner in which they were built. One hotel equals 5 houses. You are declared bankrupt if you owe more than you can pay to another player or to the bank. If your debt is to another player, you must turn over to that player all that you have of value and retire from the game. If you own houses or hotels, you must return these to the bank, which will buy them at half their cost as printed on the title deeds. This cash is given to your creditor. If you have mortgage property, you may also turn it over to your creditor, and the new owner must at once pay the bank the amount of interest on the loan, which is 10% of the value of the property. If the new owner does not lift the mortgage, he or she must still pay the interest. If the new owner lifts the mortgage later, he or she will pay an additional 10% as well as the principal amount. If you owe the bank more than you can pay, even by selling off buildings and mortgaging property, you must turn over all assets to the bank. The bank will immediately auction all properties so taken except buildings. Remove your token from the board once bankruptcy proceedings are completed. The last player remaining in the game is the winning player. Well, this has been an overview of Monopoly. Monopoly is a classic board game. Like I said, it's been around since the 1930s. It's been in print for decades. It's had multiple editions, multiple fun family theme editions, from The Simpsons to Fortnite to just about anything you can think of. The game goes online anywhere from about $10 and up, again, depending on whatever edition you want. It is very easy to find and still currently in print today. They do come out with multiple editions a year, again, different theming, so it just kind of depends on your preference of what you want. The game is relatively easy to pick up. Again, it's designed for ages 8 and up. It is a family theme game, but due to its bidding nature and pitting family members against family members, it is a notorious game that has been said to cause fights on family night and end friendships. So it has a lot of edginess to it if you've never played it before. If you haven't played it before, I would recommend playing it. It is a good game. It is a classic basic game, so if you want to get your kids involved into heavier gaming, this is a really good option for you. There's a lot of different variations, so I would recommend finding one that your kids might appreciate, like, again, Simpsons, Fortnite. There's one for Super Mario Brothers. There's all different kinds of them. So, like I said, if you haven't played Monopoly before, I would honestly recommend playing this game. I also do encourage you to stick around and check out our episode next week, where I will be continuing my Monopoly coverage into strategy and tactics of the game and some more interesting backstory history of the game, which is not relatively common, but I think is a good learning experience on where this game came from. So I encourage you to check that out, and like I said, I do recommend playing this game. Well, that's it from us here at the Gamer's Closet. We'd like to thank you for checking out our video on Monopoly from Parker Brothers during our Monopoly Month session. If there's a game in the future you'd like us to review and go over, please put it in the comments below. Please hit subscribe so that way you can be the first to check out our future content. And as always, please have a great gaming day.